Dodge Tomahawk. The Dodge Tomahawk was shown in 2003 as a wild Dodge concept built around the 8.3-liter V10 engine from the Dodge Viper. It looked like a motorcycle at first, but it actually used 4 wheels, arranged in 2 very close pairs. That gave it a strange half-bike, half-car identity. Dodge never treated it as a normal street motorcycle, and the few examples sold were more like rolling collector pieces than practical machines. Its place in motorcycle history comes from how completely it ignored normal limits. It was not designed to be sensible. It was designed to ask how far the idea of a motorcycle could be stretched. Megola. The Megola came from Germany in the early 1920s, when motorcycle design was still full of open questions. Its strangest feature was the engine, a 5-cylinder radial unit mounted inside the front wheel. Instead of hiding the power source in the frame, the Megola put it right where the steering happened. It also had no normal clutch or gearbox, so riding it required a very different rhythm from modern motorcycles. The design was not a joke or a showpiece. It was a real production machine used on roads and even in racing. The Megola matters because it shows a time when engineers were still inventing the rules rather than following them. Ner-A-Car. The Ner-A-Car was designed by Carl Ner-A-Car and built in both America and Britain during the 1920s. It had a long, low chassis, a feet-forward riding position, and steering that worked through the wheel hub instead of a traditional front fork. Its body shape made it look less like a motorcycle and more like a tiny 2-wheeled car. That was partly the point. The Ner-A-Car was meant to feel clean, stable, and approachable at a time when many motorcycles were still rough and exposed. It is remembered because it sat between several ideas at once: motorcycle, scooter, and small personal vehicle. Böhmerland 600. The Böhmerland 600 was built in Czechoslovakia by Albin Liebisch from the 1920s into the 1930s. It was famous for its very long frame, bright painted parts, and cast alloy wheels, which were unusual for the period. Some versions were made to carry 3 people in a straight line, turning the motorcycle into a kind of narrow family transporter. Its size made it look almost stretched by accident, but the design had a practical purpose on the roads of its time. The Böhmerland was not trying to be elegant in the usual way. It was trying to be useful, strong, and different. Majestic. The Majestic was a French motorcycle designed by Georges Roy near the end of the 1920s. Most motorcycles of that era showed their engines, frames, and linkages openly, but the Majestic covered much of the machine in smooth metal bodywork. It also used hub-center steering instead of a normal front fork, giving it a very clean and unusual front end. The result looked closer to an Art Deco vehicle than a standard motorcycle. Its enclosed shape was meant to offer refinement and a sense of modern design. The Majestic matters because it imagined a smoother, more protected kind of motorcycle long before that idea became common in scooters and touring machines. Killinger and Freund motorcycle. The Killinger and Freund motorcycle was a German prototype developed in the 1930s, and it took the front-wheel engine idea even further. Its 3-cylinder, 2-stroke engine was built into the front wheel, while the bodywork flowed around the machine in a smooth, streamlined shape. Very few were made, and one known example was reportedly discovered by American forces after the Second World War. The motorcycle feels like a missing branch of history, as if design had briefly gone in another direction and then stopped. It matters because it was not just strange in one detail. Its whole layout challenged the normal balance of a motorcycle. Hildebrand and Wolfmüller. The Hildebrand and Wolfmüller was built in Germany in the 1890s and is often described as the first production motorcycle. To modern eyes, it looks almost unfinished, with a bicycle-like frame and an engine that drives the rear wheel through long connecting rods. Those rods make it look a little like a small steam locomotive on 2 wheels. It came from a period when the motorcycle had not yet settled into a familiar form. Brakes, controls, cooling, and power delivery were all still being worked out. Its weirdness is historical rather than decorative, because it shows the motorcycle at the moment it was being born. Imme R100. The Imme R100 was a small German motorcycle built after the Second World War, when materials were limited and clever engineering was essential. It used a 99cc 2-stroke engine and had single-sided wheel mounting at both the front and rear. That gave it a light, delicate look, almost as if some parts had been left off. The design also used simple, efficient solutions to reduce weight and cost. It was not strange for attention. It was strange because Germany needed affordable transport in difficult times. The Imme R100 is important because it proves that weird design can come from thrift and intelligence, not only from ambition. Rokon Trail-Breaker. The Rokon Trail-Breaker is an American off-road motorcycle. First developed in the 1960s, its defining feature is two-wheel drive, sending power to both the front and rear wheels for slow movement through mud, snow, rocks, and thick forest trails. Some versions also used hollow drum-like wheels that could help the bike float or carry extra supplies. It is not built for speed, style, or smooth pavement. It is built to keep moving when most motorcycles would stop. Hunters, farmers, rescue workers, and backcountry riders have all found uses for it. The Rokon is weird because it treats the motorcycle less like a sport machine and more like a survival tool. Vespa 150 Tap. The Vespa 150 Tap was a French military scooter from the 1950s built for airborne troops. It was based on the friendly Vespa scooter, but it carried a 75mm recoilless rifle across its frame. The weapon was usually removed or supported properly before firing, but the image of a scooter carrying anti-armor equipment remains one of the strangest in motorcycle history. It came from a real military need. Soldiers wanted light vehicles that could be dropped by parachute and moved quickly after landing. The Vespa 150 Tap matters because it changed the meaning of a scooter completely. Something designed for city streets became a battlefield support machine. Moto Guzzi V8. The Moto Guzzi V8 was an Italian Grand Prix racing motorcycle introduced in the 1950s. Its 500cc engine had 8 cylinders, which was an extraordinary level of complexity for such a small racing machine. The bike was fast and advanced, but it was also difficult to develop and maintain. Tiny pistons, high engine speeds, and complex cooling made it a serious challenge even for expert engineers. It came from a racing era when factories were willing to try almost anything in search of speed. The Moto Guzzi V8 is remembered because it showed how far motorcycle engine design could go before cost, reliability, and racing rules pulled things back. Suzuki RE5. The Suzuki RE5 was a Japanese production motorcycle from the 1970s powered by a Wankel rotary engine. Instead of pistons moving up and down, its engine used a spinning rotor, giving it a smooth and unusual feel. Suzuki gave the RE5 distinctive styling too, especially on early models with a cylindrical instrument pod and matching taillight. It was advanced, but it arrived at a difficult time, when fuel economy and emissions were becoming more important. The bike was heavy, expensive, and hard to sell. Even so, it remains one of the boldest production motorcycles ever made by a major manufacturer. Hercules W2000. The Hercules W2000 was built in West Germany in the 1970s and was one of the first production motorcycles to use a Wankel rotary engine. Unlike the Suzuki RE5, it looked fairly simple from the outside. The unusual part was inside, where a compact Sachs rotary engine replaced the normal piston engine. It was light, smooth, and mechanically interesting, but riders were cautious about a technology they did not fully know. Rotary motorcycles never became mainstream, partly because they were hard to make efficient and easy to service. The Hercules W2000 stands out because it tried to make radical engine technology feel ordinary. Veen OCR 1000. The Veen OCR 1000 was a rare Dutch motorcycle from the late 1970s, powered by a twin-rotor Wankel engine connected to the NSU and Citroën rotary program. It was large, expensive, and technically ambitious, with smooth power and a strong touring character. The bike looked futuristic for its time, but its timing was difficult. The rotary engine had already begun to lose support in cars, and building such a complex motorcycle in small numbers was never easy. Only a limited number were made. The Veen matters because it was one of the most serious attempts to turn rotary power into a premium motorcycle experience. Honda Motocompo. The Honda Motocompo was a tiny folding motorcycle sold in Japan in the early 1980s. Honda designed it to fit inside the trunk of small cars like the Honda City. The handlebars, seat, and footrests folded into a clean rectangular body, making it look almost like a piece of luggage. It used a small 49cc engine and was meant for short urban trips after the driver parked the car. The idea was simple, but far ahead of its time. Today, many cities talk about last-mile mobility, compact scooters, and mixed transport. The Motocompo explored that idea decades earlier in a very Honda way. Peraves Ecomobile. The Peraves Ecomobile was a Swiss cabin motorcycle that developed into later machines such as the Monotracer. It used a fully enclosed body, tandem seating, and small stabilizer wheels that came down at low speed or when stopped. At normal road speed, it leaned like a motorcycle, but the rider sat inside a cockpit, protected from wind and rain. The shape was long, smooth, and extremely aerodynamic. It promised high efficiency and comfort, but it also required the rider to accept something that felt closer to a small aircraft than a standard bike. Its importance comes from how seriously it treated the enclosed motorcycle idea.